of the action.
Prime Minister Netanyahu was scheduled to come to Washington.
Yes.
He did not. He went back to Israel. There is a blockade. Should they end the blockade in lieu of what's happened here?
I think Israel has an absolute right to deal with its security interest. I put all this back on two things. One, Hamas, and two, Israel's need to be more generous relative to the Palestinian people who are in trouble in Gaza. Let me explain that very briefly. Sometimes, because we deal so much with the Middle East, which you know so much about, we have to remember how we got here. Remember, it was Ehud Barak who decided to pull all all Israeli troops out of Gaza. Right. He did that back in '06. Then there was an election for their parliament with a president named Mahmoud Abbas, who in fact was a successor of Arafat in the Fatah. That produced a majority of members of the parliament, which was the West Bank and Gaza, of Hamas. The international community, the so-called quartet, the United States, Europe, Russia, and the UN said, look, in order for you to be part of that government, you have to agree to four conditions. One, you'll abide by previous agreements that have been made by the government by the Palestinians. Right. Two, you are going to renounce terror. Three, you're going to recognize Israel. And basically that you have to accept it. And here's what happened. They then got in a fight among themselves. They physically took over by force of arms, killed members of the existing government, exiled them, took over and started firing rockets into Israel. Over 3,000 went in last year. And as we put pressure in the world, put pressure in Israel to let material go into Gaza to help those people who are suffering, the ordinary Palestinians there, what happened? Hamas would confiscate it, put it in a warehouse, sell it. The problem is this would end tomorrow if Hamas agreed to form a government with the Palestinian Authority on the conditions the international community has set up. And so, I mean, again, look, you can argue whether Israel should have dropped people onto that ship or not, but the truth of the matter is Israel has a right to know. They're at war with Hamas. Has a right to know whether or not arms are being smuggled in. And up to now, Charlie, what's happened? They've said, here you go. You're in the Mediterranean. This ship, if you divert slightly north, you can unload it, and we'll get the stuff into Gaza. So what's the big deal here? What's the big deal of insisting it goes straight to Gaza? Well, it's legitimate for Israel to say, I don't know what's on that ship. These guys are dropping 3,000 rockets on my people. Now, the one thing we have to do is not forget the plight of these Palestinians there, not Hamas. They are in bad shape. So we have put as much pressure and as much cajoling on Israel as we can to allow them to get building materials in.
That's what they were trying to bring in, building materials.
We know that, but they could have easily brought it in here and we get it through. And so now the question is, what do we do? Well, we have made it clear. The President of the United States has spoken 3 times yesterday with Bibi, or the day before yesterday. He's spoken once yesterday with a guy that I have spent a fair amount of time with Prime Minister Erdogan in Turkey. The Turks, we passed a resolution in the UN saying we need a transparent and open investigation of what happened. It looks like things are
international investigation.
Well, an investigation run by the Israelis, but we're open to international participation, just like the investigation run on the sunken sub in off the coast of Korea. That was run by South Korea, but the international community joined in that investigation. And so that is very possible here as well. I might add, by the way, for all those who say the Israelis, you can't trust them, the Israeli Supreme Court ruled today that every one of the people on those ships had to be released immediately. Immediately.
So what's the...
It's a rule of law. It works.
I said it was my last question, so yeah. I'll make it my last question. No. So are you saying that the relationship between Israel and the United States is okay?
It's more than okay. Look, we always have had disagreements tactically. with Israeli governments. But when I was in Israel, Bibi Netanyahu and I held a press conference before all that flap about a new settlement, etc.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm told the president got very upset because of what he did while you were in the country. I mean, that was the...
That's true, but here's the point. We stood there at that press conference. I was making a major speech at the University of Tel Aviv, major, meaning laying out U.S. policy. And Bibi pointed out that no administration in history has been as upfront and supportive of Israel's security as this administration. We've done everything to provide missile defense. We've made sure they maintain their qualitative edge. There's a new program they call Iron Dome that we're helping fund for them to be able to protect themselves. We have joint maneuvers. They've never been closer on a strategic side with Israel than today.
Ehud Barak said that to me on a program.
And that's literally true. Now, do we have disagreements on the tactical way in which this government acts and some of the comments that some of the ministers of this government, the things they say and make that we think are counterproductive? Yeah, but we always have. I go all the way back to Golda Meir. Oh, God, I'm getting old. But literally, in '73, I met with Golda Meir. We've always had some tactical differences.
I have to leave with this story. I could do this for a long time, which you tell better than I do. Golda Meir says, we have something. We have something that they don't have, which was?
I just spent a long time with Golda Meir just after the Six-Day War and before the Yom Kippur War, just days before. And she was flipping maps on her desk there and, you know, showing me this and that, and we're surrounded by and everything. And I was getting very depressed. There was a guy sitting next to me who was her aide, and his name was Rabin, the future prime minister. He was then a general. And all of a sudden she said, "Would you like a photo opportunity, Senator?" And I thought, I'm 30 years old. I said, well, yeah, yes, ma'am. And the door, those double doors open. We walk out. We're standing there, and they're clicking pictures. And I guess I must have looked really worried because of the picture she painted. And she looked at me. She said, while looking at the camera, you know, we're doing this photo shot. She's talking. She said, "Senator, why do you look so worried?" I said, "My God, Madam Prime Minister. I mean, the picture you drew." She said, "Oh," she said, "don't worry, Senator. We have a secret weapon in our conflict with the Arabs." And I said, I turned like she's going to tell me some secret. I looked at her. I said, "Madam Prime Minister, what's that?" She said, "We have nowhere else to go."